The anti-war
America first
president is talking about bombing Iran. How did we get here? Trump entered his second term railing against wars abroad and promising to strike deals that would contain America's enemies. Unlike his first term, he did not pick traditional Republican policymakers for his cabinet, who are usually more eager to use force against Iran. Instead, he prioritized loyalty over experience, making policy through his longtime friend and real estate investor Steve Witkoff and Republican Senator Marco Rubio, who had abandoned his policy beliefs to serve Trump's agenda. He also hired General Dan Kane, Fox News personality Peter Hegseth, and anti-interventionist Tulsi Gabbard, despite concerns they were underqualified. It seemed for a while that Trump was prioritizing deal-making and rejecting Israel's more assertive foreign policy plans. He turned down Israeli requests to jointly strike Iran in February and in April, as U.S. intelligence showed Iran was not building a nuclear bomb. Instead, Trump strongly criticized past U.S. interventionism at a speech given in Saudi Arabia during his Middle East tour. He went on to reach a truce with Yemen's Houthis, despite their continued attacks on Israel. He fired Mike Waltz and dozens of national security officials he saw as too close to Israel, and he entered talks for a nuclear deal with Iran. Key figures close to Trump supported this stance. TV personality Tucker Carlson, Vice President J.D. Vance, right-wing activist Laura Loomer, and his son Donald Trump Jr. But as nuclear talks went on, pressure grew from pro-Israel groups worried that a deal would be too soft on Iran. Over 200 congressional Republicans signed a letter calling on Trump to secure a deal that fully dismantles Iran's nuclear program, permanently ending its capacity to enrich uranium. Under this pressure, Trump and Witkoff soon changed their stance from limited enrichment of uranium to zero enrichment, making talks even tougher. Critics also warned that Iran was using the talks to buy time to get close to a bomb, arguing the US should help Israel strike Iranian nuclear sites instead. These included Israeli officials, conservative US media personalities like Mark Levin, and the US commander for the Middle East, General Eric Kurilla. In the vacuum of authority around the president, these figures stepped in to play to Trump's greatest fear, that he was being taken for a sucker by the Iranians and needed to act. General Kurilla, who's had more FaceTime with Trump than any other general, convinced the Pentagon to send its second aircraft carrier and new deployments of F-22, F-35, and F-16 fighter jets to the Middle East. Figures like Peter Hegseth, Elbridge Colby, and Tulsi Gabbard, who wanted to refocus on China or limit U.S. involvement, were unable to push back and wound up increasingly sidelined. As Trump began to grow doubtful, U.S. intel showed in late May that Israel was planning to strike Iran, with or without America's help. On June 8, Trump and his team met in Camp David to consider their policy options, as his CIA director warned a strike was imminent. The next day, Netanyahu laid out his plans to Trump, saying Israel already had forces inside Iran and a plan ready to go. While Trump made no commitments, he told advisors afterward that, "I think we may have to help him." U.S. intel wasn't convinced by Israel's claims that Iran was close to a bomb, but impressed by Israel's plans and increasingly pessimistic about talks with Iran, he favored the idea of using the threat of military force to weaken Iran's position. Once Israel's attack had initial success, he also wanted to take credit for its damage to Iran's military capacity, often using the term "we" in social media posts and issuing threatening calls for Iran's surrender. But despite early praise for Israel's success, it soon became clear that Israel was not just aiming at nuclear sites, but targeting Iran's leadership, with no clear exit plan. As Israel requested the U.S. join its operation, many were worried about getting drawn into a bigger regime change war, like in Iraq in 2003. Few are more worried than Trump's very own MAGA base, who have become increasingly skeptical of sending resources to Israel and military deployments in the Middle East. Many of them were first drawn to Trump because they saw an outsider who resented America's political elite for dragging the country into long wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. But now they worry he is repeating the same mistakes as his predecessors. Grassroots MAGA figures like Tucker Carlson,
you're a senator who's calling for the overthrow of the government,
you're the one who
don't know
claims
anything about the country.
Steve Bannon,
BB, who in the hell are you to lecture the American people?
Alex Jones,
will officially be the political slaves of whoever the Israeli prime minister is.
Candace Owens,
Who cares? Why should you go die in a foreign land?
and many others have criticized Trump's tilt towards war, arguing it is not America's fight. But Trump cares less about ideology than about being on the winning team, and he has always believed Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. Trump said he'll make a decision in 2 weeks. In the meantime, rival Republican factions are racing to get his attention before it's too late.